Owen Paterson quits as MP over lobbying row nightmare. Now, you've probably seen a little bit of this in the news, but I think it's finally came to an end. Owen Paterson has resigned as an MP after a row over his conduct led to a government U-turn. Now, what happened was the man was caught doing some things, but the Conservatives rallied around and defended him. Even though what he did was a little bit shady, but it seems that he's resigned anyway. The Conservative was found to have broken lobbying rules and was facing suspension. Politicians lobbying, say it ain't so. Until Tory MPs blocked it by calling for an overhaul of the MP's standards watchdog instead. Like that's it must be brilliant being in charge. Instead of fucking going after the guy that broke the rules, you instead go after the people who enforce the rules. Wait a minute, that's what I do. But it's okay when I do it. Politicians shouldn't be allowed to do it. They initially had the backing of Number 10, but Downing Street reversed its decision after a furious backlash, which, yeah, obviously, people were going to be pissed off about that. Mr. Patterson said he now wanted a life outside the cruel world of politics. And yeah, politics is a horrendous fucking place to be. It is. I've had a little stint in politics and stuff like that, and picture high school. Like, it's like high school. Oh, I heard such and such was saying this about you behind your back and all this stuff. There's so much of that everywhere. It is like fucking high school, except, instead of, your friends just not sitting with you at the lunch hall, they might, vote down your bill. You know, people might actually, fucking get rid of legislation or table legislation over petty little fucking grievances, and they all get to do that with each other. Whereas we, the millions and millions of fucking suckers that voted these bastards in, we're the ones that bear the brunt of their little fucking stupid fallouts. Fucking high school. In a statement, the 65-year-old, who has represented North Shropshire since 1997, said the past 2 years have been an indescribable nightmare for my family and me. He said his integrity had been repeatedly and publicly questioned and claimed he was totally innocent of breaking lobbying rules. Some of Mr. Patterson's Tory colleagues have paid tribute to him, with Andrew Rosendale saying his resignation was a huge loss to Parliament and to politics in our country. But other MPs said that he needed to be held to account for his actions, with one Labour's Sam Tarry tweeting good riddance. Well, of course, Labour and the Tories fucking hate each other publicly. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has called on the Prime Minister to apologise to the whole country for the chaotic past 24 hours and for his grubby attempt to cover up for the misdemeanour of his friend. And yeah, this politics, everyone looks out for their own. The Commons Standards Committee concluded last week that Mr. Patterson had misused his position as an MP to benefit two firms he worked for after a damning report on his behaviour by Standards Commissioner Catherine Stone. He essentially did a little bit of a Bud Dwyer. Oh yeah, I'll totally give you this government contract. It's fine. Just give us a little kickback. Do you know what I mean? They recommended he be suspended from the Commons for 30 sitting days, a sanction that could also lead to a recall petition in his constituency and the possibility of him facing a by-election. Such recommendations, which have to be signed off by MPs, are usually accepted without much discussion. But on Wednesday, the government ordered its members to vote for an amendment to halt Mr. Patterson's case and to rejig the standard system. So basically, the rules were in place to stop MPs doing dodgy shit, and when an MP was caught doing dodgy shit, instead of, punishing him or whatever according to the rules, they instead went, yeah, but he's one of ours, so why don't we just change the rules a little bit? Like, politics. Politics in modern Britain. Born in Whitechurch, Shropshire in 1956, he studied history at Cambridge University before joining his family leather business, of which he became managing director. He was first elected MP for North Shropshire in 1997 and had a majority of almost 23,000 at the last general election. Patterson was made Northern Ireland Secretary in 2010, moving to become Environment Secretary in 2012. After leaving the government in 2014, he was a strong supporter of Brexit. Based. Even the Tories can be based sometimes. His wife Rose, chair of Antry Racecourse, took her own life in 2020. The couple had 3 children. Fucking hell. Jesus Christ, that took a turn. Fuck's sake. Opposition parties accused the Conservatives of corruption and sleaze, saying they were just looking out for their own MP, and Labour, the SNP, and the Liberal Democrats refused to take part in any new process. However, one thing that you will see all the time is all of these parties, not so much the Lib Dems, I don't know any cases of them doing it, but Labour and the SNP, oh fuck yeah, they take care of their own. They take care of their own. If anything like dodgy, especially the SNP, anything dodgy happens to any of their party members, they use their power to make it go away. On Thursday morning, Commons leader Jacob Rees-Mogg announced a U-turn, saying that no new process would go ahead without cross-party support, and any changes would not be made retrospectively in Mr Patterson's case. A spokesman for Boris Johnson said the PM had recognised the strength of feeling on all sides of the House around the issue, and changed his mind when it became clear that a cross-party consensus on the changes was not possible. Now, he changed his mind when he found out that everyone was really kicking off about it. Because, I mean, when you have rules in place to stop MPs from doing shady things, and then when you get caught and instead of punishing the MP, you try and change the rules instead, it doesn't look good. It does not look good. Looks kinda dodgy. You know, very, very bad optics. But Labour's Sir Keir and Mr Johnson must explain how he intends to fix the immense harm he has done to the confidence and the probity of him and his MPs. And despite the resignation, the SNP's Pete Wishart said it was not the end of this sorry saga. He tweeted, "Something rotten has happened in the last couple of days, and the extraordinary behaviour of this government must be examined." I agree, except in regards to the SNP. Especially with some of the ways, when they've broken a few rules. Mr Patterson said it was a painful decision to resign, but the right one. He said that the past few days had been intolerable, claiming he had seen people, including MPs, publicly mock and deride the death of his wife Rose, who took her own life last year. In an earlier statement, the former Northern Ireland Secretary said the investigation into his conduct had been a major contributory factor in her death. Fucking hell. On Thursday, Mr Patterson added, "My children have therefore asked me to leave politics altogether, for my sake as well as theirs. I agree with them. I do not want my wife's memory and reputation to become a political football. Above all, I always put my family first. His resignation means that there will soon be a by-election for his seat." What did Owen Patterson do? Mr Patterson has been a paid consultant for clinical diagnostics company Randox since 2015 and to meat distributor Lynn's Country Foods since 2016, earning a total of $100,000 a year on top of his MP's salary. MPs are allowed to have these jobs but are not allowed to be paid advocates, as in using their influence in Whitehall for the company's gain, which is known as lobbying, which is just a stunt. Fucking hippies shouting outside. Fucking Extinction Rebellion are still outside. The committee concluded that Mr Patterson had breached his rule on paid advocacy by making 3 approaches to the Food Standards Agency relating to Randox and the testing of antibiotics in milk, making 7 approaches to the Food Standards Agency relating to Lynn's Country Foods, making 4 approaches to ministers at the Department for International Development relating to Randox and blood testing technology. Mr Patterson was also found to have broken conduct rules by failing to declare his interest as a paid consultant to Lynn's Country Foods, then 4 emails to officials at the Food Standards Agency, using his parliamentary office on 16 occasions for business meetings with his clients. So that was basically things not related to Parliament. He was meeting with business clients as part of these companies and not for Parliament. And in sending 2 letters relating to his business interests on House of Commons headed notepaper, because all of that type of shit, you have to keep it completely separate from Parliament, and no, you're not allowed to use your power in Parliament to benefit businesses that you have a part ownership and a part stake in where you could financially benefit from. It's like, basically, like, say that I owned an IT company and I got voted in to fucking Scottish Parliament. Not yet, but it'll fucking happen one day, I'm sure. And, the government contract says, oh, we need a IT team to, like, fucking head up some IT bullshit. They need to do, like, processing benefits or processing the people that are getting thrown into the gulags under the SNP. And then I approach my own company and say, oh yeah, I know this contract's like 2 million, but I'll do it for like 5 million. That you're not allowed to do that shit. That is some That's some extremely dodgy shit, and it seems that that's what he got caught doing, and instead of being held responsible, the Tories instead tried to change the rules, and basically if they did change the rules, then you know for a fact that every single one of them would be fucking doing that. Pretty much every government contract would be a company that the Tories had some connection to. So yeah, I should he have resigned? I think it was the thing to do. Basically, I don't like people abusing their power in government, and I especially don't like them abusing that power so that they personally can make more money.